Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm happy to take part in the International Conference on Management Education and Emerging Technology, MEET2023. Thank you for inviting me to take part in that. I am Volga Rudkovskaya. I am an associate professor, head of department at the Belarusian State Economic University. I'm PhD in economics, and my main sphere of interest is financial planning and financial management in general. So I would like to address some of the issues that we have in financial planning methodology nowadays. Why? Because this particular topic is very relevant for every single individual in our entire world. Then it's completely relevant for every enterprise or a company, letting alone transnational corporations, definitely true. Also, it's important and necessary to take care of for states, for the whole entire regions and the world in general. So it's relevant, and let's take a look at the problems that we can highlight there. First of all, let me say some words about the problems that are of the highest concern right now. I'm talking about healthcare, I'm talking about unemployment, I'm talking about climate change, inequality, sustainable development issues, also the lack of financial resources supply, and so on. All those problems can be addressed, and we try to find solutions in every single direction using different types of methodologies and tools. Talking about strategic financial planning is an infrastructural element for every single system that provides us with a solution. So what is strategic financial planning? I would like to highlight several approaches that can help us in understanding this better. As an object, strategic financial planning for a company is financial strategy that should be developed, that should be adjusted, that should be taken care of very, very precisely. As a process, strategic financial planning can be defined as a set of steps and procedures that are sequentially, let's say in such a way, carried out in order to build financial strategy. So what kind of techniques, what kind of tools we need to use, and the way we use them, the way we implement the knowledge should be described here. Also, strategic financial planning can be defined as a part. I mean that is a functional element of the enterprise strategic planning in general. So we need to talk about production planning, we need to talk about marketing planning, we need to talk about quality product planning, HR planning, and a lot of different elements, and financial planning is one of them, but really, really relevant to take it seriously. Also, strategic financial planning can be described as a whole process, as a system of interconnected elements that are functioning and performing as a whole mechanism. And they really need to work smoothly. They really need to be adjusted into entire system to show us the best result, to give us the best result. Also, in its space, we can say that spatial diversity of the development and implementation of a financial strategy is really possible, and it's absolutely relevant for transnational corporations, for companies that operate their business in different regions and countries to consider that kind of factors. And in time, it's really interesting that we need to say on the one hand, the permanent nature of strategic financial planning. So we should do that regularly from time to time. We need to reassess our goals. We need to reassess our resources that should be allocated and so on. But on the other hand, the clear time frame for each of its stages and procedures should be provided. It should be deadlines organized. It should be some procedures that should have their strict limits, strict deadlines, right? So all those factors to determine our strategic financial planning process should be taken into account, and it makes it really, really complicated to implement in real life, not in theoretical part, but in practical usage. So I have highlighted four main problems, or I would like to say reasons, why strategic financial planning is not considered to be really important, right? Why? Point number one, the conflicts in a goal-setting process. Number two, reassessing goals. Number three, resources-consuming process, including methodology. And number four, accuracy and uncertain external environment. Those four groups of factors negatively influence on the way we use strategic financial planning methodology. And let me say some words about every single of them. For example, the conflicts in the goal-setting process. We need to answer one very simple question before start working on our methodology. What are the goals of the ownership? We can have two main options. Option number one, do the owners want to sell the company in 3 or 5 years, or hold and operate it for 20 years? So the goals are different here, and the techniques that we are going to use in order to highlight the main results for our future should be also different, right? Different goals, different way of achieving them, different techniques to be used. It's point number one. We need to know what are we going to do in the future. What should it be? Point number two, reassessing goals. There are a lot of different approaches in the scientific world that helps us to understand the way it should be done. For example, the technique of moving horizon in a planning can help us in reassessing our goals, and depends on the operational cycle. If we're talking about production, if operational cycle is short, then we can use this technique and reassess our goals once a year, or maybe even less sometimes. If our operation cycle is really long, 2 or 3 years, it depends. So our horizon technique, or moving, horizon technique should be used twice in 3 years or once in 2 years, it depends. So reassessing goals should be implemented in the process of strategic financial planning in order to understand if we need to switch from one goal to another, if we need to adjust our strategy and get focused on something much more important according to the current conditions and current situation on the market. What should be said here about methodology and techniques that should be used in strategic financial planning and reassessing goals? I will show you in my presentation system representation of the entire procedure of strategic financial planning that is necessary to to take consideration. Why? Because it shows the entire process with all the repeatable circles, with all the necessary activities to conduct, and how to adjust that to short-term planning, middle-term planning, and long-term planning. It's very common approach. I would like you to take a look at that. I'm not going deeper in every single point here. It's pretty clear, but that kind of system representation makes a lot of sense in order to combine all the reasons that I've mentioned previously in one very successful tool, I would say. The next problem that was mentioned is actually accuracy, because nobody knows what is going to happen in the future, what factors will influence most, what factors will reduce their influence, and so on. So the entire philosophy of strategic financial planning and even management in general is based on making predictions about events that are really far away in the future. It makes this process even more complicated. Strategic financial planning and all the techniques that I would like you to use gives a competitive advantages at the same time to the companies and justifies the existence of the field, even though the absolute accuracy rate of their predictions may not be as impressive as we would like them to be. it's absolutely impossible to find the way to predict the future 100% accurate, right? But being close to that, taking into account all the factors, is necessary. Absolutely, yes. So telling this, I would like to pay your attention to a basic functionality that I have developed recently, where there is a problematic issue, like financial strategy for the company should be created as a functionality of different factors. The factors are the composition of financial resources that are structured by time, tools, conditions, according to the strategic direction of development that the owners have chosen for their company. Also, what we need to take into account here, as you can see on this slide, is situations defined by the external trends, a lot of them, that determine the direction of development. Also, goals and objectives determined by internal factors achieved during the development of strategic strategy, financial strategy. Also, subjective factor or preference function of the person making managerial decisions. We are talking about leadership here, and it's really relevant. Also, variable factors determining the choice of financial strategy. It depends. Then the last one is a criterion for choosing the best option for a given implementation interval of a financial strategy for a combination of factors. I would like you to take a look at all those factors and ask yourself, is it enough to combine all those necessary factors together and start working on financial strategy alternative? According to my mind, it's enough, but all the adjustments, of course, are welcome, and we can work on them even more. So, talking about the way to implement all the ideas that I have mentioned, all the factors, to eliminate all the reasons, to combine all the necessary tools together to perform successfully in the future for a company, I propose to use one method that, to my mind, according to my mind, it actually helps a lot. And allows us to combine all the necessary parts together. The method is a hierarchy analysis method. So it is about a lot of steps that should be taken in order to understand which way, which alternative of strategic financial planning, of financial strategy is more appropriate for the company in the future, like 3, 5, 10 years. It depends on the period we are working on. So what are the steps that should be taken according to this hierarchy analysis method? First of all, we need to create a list of possible alternatives to the company's financial strategy. In this slide, I think you can see that I suggested to take into account 3 main alternatives. Alternative number 1, A1, catching up strategy. Alternative number 2, innovative strategy. Alternative number 3, modernization strategy. It depends on a lot of factors that we are going to take into account: marketing position of the company, technological level of the company, different external, internal factors, of course. But we need to highlight the main of them that are probably acceptable for the company. Then step number 2, determine the global goal of strategic financial planning of the company. What should it be? In my case, I suggested to consider providing enterprise production and social development by financial resources is the global goal for the strategic period of planning. I think for the company that I was working with, the machine tool companies, 16 machine tool companies in Belarus, and the main goal for them, in order to be competitive, in order to be successful, the main goal was to provide financial resources for production first and for social development. for helping their employees in different directions. So it was our main goal that we highlighted during this research. Then let's move to the point number 3, step number 3, to identify the operating conditions of the company. As I said, we should take a look at different factors like external, internal, financial markets, what's going on there, government restrictions or governmental different types of regulations and so on. The whole spectrum of analysis should be conducted. So it means operating conditions. Okay. Point number 4, to develop a number of financial criteria for the development of the company. Here we took 5 main criteria. First of all, it's minimize fixed cost, maximized market value, maximized profits, optimization of sales growth rates, and maximization of high tech value added. 5 main indicators that we can use. They are not limited just with this list. We can add a lot more. We can reduce the amount of points in the list, but these are the main ones that we can use. After having done that, we need to pay attention to the key characteristics and forms of financing according to the company's strategies. What do I mean here? We have 3 alternatives of our financial strategy: catching up, innovating, and modernization. We need to find out main key features. What is it about technologies? Do we need to acquire it of long known technologies? Do we need to update existing technologies? Do we need to finance the development or to buy the latest technologies? So what should we do in this order? Then what kind of costs we are going to take, low, average, or high cost for our project? What kind of risk are we able to maintain here? Minimum, moderate, high. We need to highlight this. And according to that, we need to find what kind of financing we are ready to obtain. So it could be our own funds, it could be credit resources, it could be governmental support, it could be convertible bonds, it could be borrow funds, leasing, whatever. So we need to highlight all those tiny details for every single strategy that we are going to assess. Okay. Then talking about hierarchy analysis method, what else we need to do? Point number 5, we need to make a pairwise comparison of the criteria importance relative to the global goal. If so here on the slide you can see how it works. If you're interested in this method, you can find a lot more information. I don't want to waste your time talking about technical things, how to make this comparison. It's very easy, nothing difficult here. After doing that, we need to make a pairwise comparison of the financial strategy alternative in correlation with each of the financial criteria. The same technology, but we need to compare not the criteria, but the alternative according to criteria itself. Step number 7, we need to form a vector of local priorities, and we need to calculate them, and we need to add them to the table. The methodology is completely clear, so if you're interested, could you please take a look at this? After that, we need to calculate the global priorities of the financial statement, financial strategy alternatives, and determine the most relative alternative to a financial strategy based on the criteria of maximizing global priorities. In other words, we need to find out which alternative would get the highest global priorities. Talking about my case, and that I was working for a long period of time for a machine tool industry company, we found out that there are 2 main priorities for them. The first one, as the results showed us, was to follow catching up for a while, for 2, 3, or 4 years. For what? The main reason is because they needed to have a certain amount of income to be able to start financing their modernization process. And only after that, the best alternative for them, financial strategy for them, will be modernization strategy with higher risk, with high cost for projects, with latest equipment and tools and everything for their production. So yeah, having done that, we need to pay attention to the results. That it is, of course, much more informative because you are going through a lot of factors. You are assessing a lot of different conditions for the company, for the entire market, for the global situation in this industry. But it helps a lot. And talking about finalizing this process, I would like to highlight the main rules, 6 main rules that I have discovered working on this technology, working on this approach to strategic financial planning that are really helpful. For example, rule number 1 is consistency. The more we work on that, the more resources we allocate for achieving our goals, the more sufficient we are. We need to be consistent in our activity. Only then, not from time to time, only then it's going to be very, very productive. Rule number 2, parallel planning. Strategic activity planning is presented as a system that should include a set of functional blocks: technological planning, organizational planning, personnel planning, financial planning, and etc. They should be conducted in parallel. It's rule number 2. No situation when we can skip one part and the other parts will be successful. No, I didn't hear about that, so it should be like this. It's rule number 2. Rule number 3, system project administration. If we have a project in our company and we would like to start working on that and highlight all the pros and cons, it's the best option for the company to have all the financial resources allocated, to have all the personal resources, labor resources, whatever we call it. It's much more efficient to consider every single step, every single goal for the company as a project. Okay, and then we have the beginning, we have the end, and we have contribute a lot having this information. So it's much more efficient. Rule number 4, project approach to financial planning. It's from rule number 3 coming up. And of course, when we have a project, to find the best option of financing is much more easier. Rule number 5, reliability, necessity, and sufficiency of information support. It's about analyzing part. We need to have clear, reliable information, sufficient enough to make managerial decisions. Absolutely, yes. And rule number 6 is planning and use of international experience of different types of information technologies, information communication technologies, in order to be on the wave, okay, in order to show the best results, in order to achieve our goals. So updating process should be very relevant here, and in our information era right now, it's one of the most important part. I think so. So that's it. I wanted to tell you about strategic financial planning and share some of my ideas. I truly believe that for every single business, for every emerging market, emerging region, to pay attention to those techniques that we use, to those main ways of conducting our business is really relevant. So thank you so much for your attention. If any questions, I'm here to answer. I would like to wish you a nice conference experience, a lot of insights, a lot of great speakers, and good luck.